Hey, Owen here, and today I'm going to be building Airfix's old 1/76 scale StuG III. Before starting, I washed all the parts in warm soapy water with a splash of vinegar to remove any residue from the mould. As this was a 1967 mould, there was some flashing on the parts, but I quickly removed it with my knife. I found it was easiest to glue the roller wheels together by using a pin vise to make sure that the two halves were correctly aligned. I could then sand them all down at the same time with ease. I could have made the wheels look more realistic by drilling out the impressions on them with my pin vise, but I decided it would compromise the strength of the plastic. Again, I used the pin vise to line up and sand down the wheels. Surprisingly, the drive sprockets were well moulded and fitted together easily. Unfortunately, these pieces of the suspension were not well moulded, and there was a lot of tidying up to do before they could be attached. The entire process was repeated for the other side of the lower hull. There was a fair amount of flashing to be removed on the upper hull part, and also I think that some of the moulded detail here is not to scale. The hinge mechanism for the gun was not very good and didn't fit together easily. Thankfully, the hull came together without difficulty. There were a few gaps, but these would later get hidden by the tracks. I used masking tape to secure the parts in place while the glue dried. The exhaust box was not particularly well moulded, so I later improved it by drilling out the exhaust pipes with my pin vise. I had to remove quite a lot of flashing from the gun, the end of which was very poorly moulded. I improved it with a lot of sanding and by drilling out the end with a pin vise. The fit of the hatches was okay. You could probably have them in an open position and add some crew if you wanted. I decided to attach the spare track to the front of the StuG rather than to the sides like the instructions suggested. I also didn't like the machine gun shield sticking up as there was no machine gun, so I glued it in its lowered position. The darkest areas, such as the underside, were painted and left black to replicate how light affects the full-size tank. I drilled out the end of the gun with my pin vise to make it look more realistic, and I did the same to the exhaust pipes. The model was first given a base coat of Humbrol 94 brown yellow, thinned to a ratio of 1 part thinner to 6 parts paint. See my video on how to brush paint scale models for more information. There's a link in the cards and in the description. Once this had dried, a second coat of the same colour and ratio followed. A third coat, this time Humbrol 83 ochre, thinned to the same ratio, turned the StuG the right colour. I applied watered down PVA glue to the areas where the decals will go, as the semi-gloss finish it leaves helps to stop the decals from silvering. The decals were applied in my usual way, holding them in warm water for about 10 seconds and applying them with microset decal solution. For more information, check the link in the description or in the cards. There were only a few decals, the quality of them was good if perhaps a bit too thick. After the decals had dried, I sealed them with another coat of watered down PVA glue. To make the StuG look more interesting, I decided to do a winter camouflage scheme. I stippled Humbrol Maskol onto areas where I wanted the ochre colour to show through. I mainly applied it along the edges, but also to some of the lower areas of the hull and on the wheels. Once the Maskol had dried, I thinned Humbrol 34 white to a ratio of 1 part thinner to 2 parts paint and applied it all over the model. After the first coat had dried, a second of the same colour and ratio followed. I liked how it didn't create a uniform colour. Using a piece of blue tack or plasti-tack, I removed the Maskol to reveal the ochre colour beneath. It created a good chipped look, but it was more extreme than what I had wanted. To make it look more natural, I again thinned Humbrol 34 to a ratio of 1 to 2, and with a fine brush softened the effect of the Maskol. I was much happier with the look of the camouflage after this. I mixed a very dark grey colour, thinned 1 part thinner to 6 parts paint, and with a very fine brush and a steady hand painted the tyres onto the wheels. Any mistakes were later neatened up with white paint. The rubber tracks were painted with enamel Humbrol 33 black. Once this had dried, I dry brushed them with Humbrol 56 aluminium. A dark brown wash followed, mixed from Humbrol 33 and 29. I also applied this wash to the lower hull. The tracks were a bit difficult to get on, and I had to be careful not to snap off the wheels. I tried stapling the tracks together, but I couldn't, so I had to just carefully fuse them together with heated tweezers. I mixed a medium grey-brown chalk wash and applied it over the whole model. For more information, check the link in the description or in the cards. In some areas I applied it too thickly, so I brushed some water over the model to thin it down. Once the wash had dried, I rubbed away the excess with a damp cotton bud until I was pleased with the effect. Exhaust stains and gun smoke was added by brushing black and brown chalk dust onto the model. A 4B pencil was rubbed over the tracks to give them a dull metal sheen. The final touch was to cut off the plastic antennae, which did not look to scale at all, and replace them with some painted fishing wire. I drilled shallow holes with my pin vise, and then, using a small amount of PVA glue, secured the fishing wire in place. With that, the model was complete. So overall, for a 1967 mould, I think that this actually makes a reasonable looking StuG kit. Yes, not all of the moulded detail is to scale, for example those old antennae. The rubber band tracks are awful, as to be expected, and there was some flashing on the sprue. However, all of the parts fitted well, there was no need for sanding or filling once it was all assembled, and that made the build process really enjoyable. I also enjoyed painting it. I think it was a good idea to go with the winter camo, as it made it just a bit more interesting than the ochre tone, and something I haven't tried before. And I really like the Humbrol Maskol, although I think I need to practice a bit more with it. I really like the effect that it got, so I'll definitely be using that again in the future. So I think you end up with a decent looking StuG kit that is enjoyable and easy to build, and for that reason I would recommend this kit to beginners and above. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.